welcome to another episode of the Source Material Comics Podcast. That is right. I am making my way back into the Source Material Comics Podcast hosting chair. And this evening, I think this was one that Mark had on the schedule because we're tying this in with the most recent movie, which is Shang-Chi. So I have never really read anything with this character in it, so this is something brand new for me, but I'm not alone on this journey. That's right. Bringing along Chris Armstrong, my buddy from our 90s podcast, Unspoken Issues, and he's agreed to help. Am I correct in saying that he's the main character from Master of Kung Fu? Is that right?
I believe that is correct, but I better
double check. Master.
I know that he was created by Jim Starlin, and then he only did a few issues of the book before he passed it off to somebody else.
I am correct, I believe. The Master of Kung Fu is indeed Shang-Chi, which is interesting because I found, I think the last, 5 or 6 issues at a yard sale, probably about 5 or 6 years ago.
The old series?
Yeah, Master of Kung Fu.
Cool.
It's got him kind of walking away. I think on that last issue, his back is kind of to the viewer. I mean, they weren't in great condition, but I picked them up, never read them. So it's one of those things where you see the comic, you're like, oh, that looks old. I better get that. It's only $1. I'll go ahead and grab it. So yeah, I was just looking at the Wikipedia here. It looks like it ran from 74 to 83. And yes, it is indeed the main character of Master of Kung Fu was Shang-Chi. But
yeah, I've never really read any Shang-Chi stuff. I believe he appeared in an issue or two of the Heroes for Hire series from the late 90s that Iron Fist and Cage were the lead characters in. I believe he appeared in that a few times, and then I know he appeared in a Spider-Man issue that I read in the 90s at some point, and that's about it, other than, I guess more recently, I think he was in the Hickman Avengers run some.
Okay.
So I'm really not familiar with Shang-Chi at all.
Well, that's all right. That's what this podcast is here for. This is us walking into a new property / character, one that's been around, obviously, for a while. Like I said, 74 was the first issue of Master of Kung Fu. He's been around a little bit prior to that. It looks like it was 73. It was Shang-Chi's first appearance. I'm right there with you, man. I've not read anything with him in it that I can recall. When you think of the elite Marvel characters, my goodness, I don't even know if this dude is going to be at the forefront of anybody's mind. Now, that's where movies come in and change that, because if this is a good movie we got coming up, that might change things. Let me switch gears here real quick and just ask you this. Do you or did you watch Kung Fu movies?
Not really. My older brother and one of his best friends, they were really into Kung Fu movies in the mid 90s, early to mid 90s. And in the late 90s, early 2000s, they were trying to get me into them a little bit. And I just never really liked them all that much. I was kind of, a subtitle snob. I didn't want to watch any movies I had to read.
Yeah, I was
and I'm
right
still
there
kind
with
of
you
that way.
when I was a kid.
I'll watch some stuff that was some foreign films with subtitles occasionally, but not super often. So I've seen some of the big ones like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, some of the Jet Li movies from the 90s. But
what,
I've never.
What about Jackie Chan?
Most of the Jackie Chan movies I've seen are the American movies that he's done.
Okay.
I saw Rumble in the Bronx, in the mid 90s. Maybe a couple others, but not a ton.
Okay.
So I don't have any kind of disdain for the genre or anything. I like, I love the John Wick movies and, the Matrix flicks, stuff that have a lot of martial arts style stuff in them, but are kind of different.
Definitely influenced by the Kung Fu movies of old. I can remember my first probably exposure to a Kung Fu movie was when I was over at my dad's one weekend, and I walked back into his bedroom, and on his TV he had something that was playing, I think probably on USA in the middle of a Saturday. It may have even been late at night or something like that, and it was definitely some type of a Kung Fu movie. But I was the same way. I was just like, well, I don't really understand what's going on here. The fighting looks cool, but I've never just gravitated to where I needed to find them and watch them. Now, obviously, as I grew older, man, it's funny because I'm in the same boat you are. Rumble in the Bronx. I can remember going to college that first year in '97, and I may have mentioned this on the podcast before, maybe it was Unspoken Issues, but we had this cable channel up there that showed movies before they were like released to video. And I don't know how or what kind of,
That's cool.
yeah, I don't know what kind of.
Was it one of those like, did you guys like had somebody hack into some kind of like, hotel rooms used to have where you could rent the movies, like in that window between theater and home video, like.
No,
I remember that in the 90s. Because I remember we watched Forrest Gump when I was a kid, when we were on vacation in a hotel, and it wasn't available to rent yet, but it wasn't in theaters anymore either. So there was always like a month or two window where hotels, it seemed like, had some kind of special deal where they could show movies like that.
This was an actual channel that I assume like Ohio University created and paid money for in order to offer this. And at that moment, I can remember watching that, really getting a love for the martial arts films, or I should say at least that type of martial arts. The good stuff with Jackie Chan.
Yeah.
I became a fan. I mean, a lot of his stuff is mixed with some good bit of humor and stunts. I was like, oh, yeah, a lot of stunts. Oh man, watching him do his own stunts and then the gag reel afterwards. Yeah. Oh, wow. Hey, it's going to be a kind of a new experience for both of us. I know you said you were picking it up. Was there any specific reason why you were picking this book up monthly?
Kind of like the last year or so. I don't really like a lot of the stuff Marvel and DC are doing, but I have picked up a lot of like mini series, like the U.S. Agent mini series that Marvel did recently. This Shang-Chi series. There are a couple more that I'm having trouble thinking of off the top of my head. Since I haven't been buying Avengers, for a couple years now. Fantastic Four, I haven't been buying that for a few years now. A lot of the big Marvel books I just don't keep up with as much anymore. So I'll give a chance to some of these smaller like books. And I knew the Shang-Chi movie was coming out, and I knew that was why they were doing this book. So I just kind of took the bait and gave it a shot. And I kind of liked the first issue, so I kept going with it.
Okay. All right. Well,
before we move on completely from Kung Fu movies, so we have to acknowledge perhaps the greatest Kung Fu movie, Big Trouble in Little China.
No doubt about it. My goodness. Did you see my post? Like, I don't know, it was probably like 6 months ago, where I realized that it was John Carpenter that sung that song.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, wait a second. I had no idea. I knew the song, but I had no idea it was John Carpenter and his band. I can't remember the name of the band, but
the Coupe de Villes.
The Coupe de Villes. That's right.
I've got plenty of John Carpenter trivia for you.
I know that, dude. I know for sure. I'm trying to I think really I can remember as young as I was, that would play on the USA Network, and I had to stop and watch it. It was one of my favorite martial arts / mystical / when you think about it, it's such a great film when you're taking like some dude who's just like American as all American could be,
I mean, he's literally doing a John Wayne impression.
Yeah, and they throw him right into the middle of Chinatown, and all this craziness that's going on. So it is a great film. Absolutely, I'll watch it again here probably within the next year or so with my boys. Fun stuff. Well, so the creative team, and I apologize for mispronouncing any names here. Just right up front. Yeah, this is the curse of Appalachia right here, trying to pronounce some of this stuff. But I'm pretty sure I can maybe get the writer right, and that's Gene Luen Yang. Art by, I'm going to go with DK. How's that? DK Ruan, and then Philip Tan, which is the flashback artist. And I could recognize his art immediately. And then colored by Sebastian Chang and lettered by VC's Travis Lanham. This is Shang-Chi, came out in 2020. We're doing the 5 issues. I'm going to do a synopsis here of the first 3. So if you're ready, I'm going to go ahead and jump into it.
Go for it.
With this being a character that, we're casual fans. We know the name, but we're not deep into the lore of Shang-Chi. There is a lot of lore. That's what I get across in these first 3. We learn a lot about Shang-Chi, where he's come from, what his background is versus all the people that were in his life and where he's at now. So here we go. Issues 1 through 3 of Shang-Chi. That synopsis is right around the corner, but first let me talk about Amazon Music.
At the W2M Network, we believe sharing is caring, and what better thing to give than the gift of music. If you head to getamazonmusic.com/W2M Network, you can get a free 30-day trial where you can check out over 70 million songs. That's getamazonmusic.com/W2M Network for that free 30-day trial.
Shang-Chi is currently living in San Francisco, helping an elderly woman out at her bakery in exchange for lodging. Again, when beautiful British secret agent Liko Wu arrives to tell him that the Five Weapons Society has targeted him. Just to kind of let you know, Five Weapons Society, Shang-Chi has history with them, okay? Aided by other society members, Brother Saber and Sister Dagger, Shang-Chi learns that he has been chosen as Supreme Commander of the Five Weapons Society. There is only one problem. His sister, Shi-Hua, or as she is known now, Sister Hammer, who is believed to have been dead since childhood. She has ruthlessly taken over the society and actually aims to kill her own brother, Shang-Chi. In the second issue, we learn of an incident that led to Shang-Chi's father, Zhang Zu, exiling Shi-Hua to the House of the Deadly Hammer in Russia. Zhang Zu never let Shang-Chi know that she was still alive. Finding Shi-Hua now in present day, Shang is led to believe she is relieved to see him, but then finds out that she has poisoned him. When he awakens in a lab filled with what appear to be zombies, Brother Saber and Sister Dagger appear to help Shang escape. However, during the fight, he is wounded by one of the zombies and faints. When he wakes up, he is on Brother Saber and Sister Dagger's boat, but sees a vision of his dead father Zhang Zu in the distance. In our third issue, Shang arrives at the House of the Deadly Dagger in France. There he meets Master Ling, who explains the creatures he were fighting were called Jiangshi. Led by the vision of his father Zhang Zu, he finds a hidden shrine for his uncle, Zhang Yi, and a map. Another encounter with Sister Hammer has Shang-Chi fighting more Jiangshi, the zombies. When Sister Hammer's forces appear to have been defeated, she begins to retreat. Suddenly, Shang's wound from the previous battle begins to act up, and he feels compelled to do his sister's bidding, but is able to resist, and even shields his friend from a bomb blast as Sister Hammer escapes. Now, some side notes, okay? Throughout the issues, we're treated to glimpses of the past, specifically the history between Zhang Zu, Shang's father, and Zhang Yi, which is Zu's brother and Shang-Chi's uncle. We get a brief history of Zhang Zu and how he was the leader of the Five Weapons Society that protected China. After his brother Zhang Yi died, he puts a longevity spell in place to guide the Five Weapons Society for many, many years. However, he met his end when he fought his favorite son, Shang-Chi. We also learn that it is believed Zhang Zu killed his younger brother, believing kindness to be a weakness. Now, I know that was a lot to throw out there. I mean, really simply, Shang-Chi has gone off to San Francisco, minding his own business, finds out his sister, who he thought was dead, is still alive, and decides to go and talk to her because apparently she's getting a little feisty and trying to take over the society. I mean, and what we see of her through these issues, she's definitely like killing people with no quarter. You're wondering, like, why in the world would Shang-Chi want to talk to this girl? But we also learn about his father and his uncle and the past that Zhang Zu and Zhang Yi had, where they were trying to help protect China by guiding the Five Weapons Society. There's definitely some hints that Zhang Zu killed his own brother. From what I understand, I mean, this guy's pretty evil. He's portrayed pretty badly, at least. I mean, he sends his own daughter off to a camp in Russia and makes his own son believe that she's dead just because, she struck him to try and protect her own brother. But yeah, I mean, we got Sister Hammer out there causing trouble. Shang-Chi, who gets injured. He's about to turn into he's not turning into a zombie, but he's definitely feeling the effects of the infection that he got from getting struck by one of the Jiangshis. Just real quick, let's talk about the perceived hurdles here, and you tell me if it was something that you had to try and get past when you were reading these issues, or if it was something that was easily overcome. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Number one, Shang-Chi is a B character. Am I wrong in saying that?
No, I mean, you could probably argue he's a C character.
Yeah, I was being
just
generous.
because he's a character that Marvel hasn't made a concerted effort to keep in the forefront, literally for 40 years. Like,
Yeah.
he pops up every once in a while. He shows up as guest star. He'll have a mini series here and there. But I think he actually has a series right now that followed this one up. But I mean, we all know that's because there's a movie coming out.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So we'll see how long that lasts. But yeah, he just is not a guy who's been given, a lot of chances to shine or whatever for Marvel. But I think he's a cool character. Then I didn't mention earlier, one of the things that probably kind of cinched it for me that I was going to pick up that first issue was that Philip Tan was the one of the artists, and I like him, and I thought, well, he'll be a good fit for this character, so I'll check it out. That was kind of one of the selling points for that first issue too.
Yeah, for sure. And he just does the art for the flashbacks.
Right.
But yeah, again, you can instantly recognize it, and it's great. Just like you said, he's not at the forefront of a lot of storylines that Marvel's done. I don't remember what Shang-Chi was doing during Infinity Gauntlet. It wasn't there. Apparently they probably looked at him and said, well, there's not, we've tried this and there's no sales there or something. But
he was born out of the, Kung Fu invasion of the, mid 70s when Bruce Lee blew up, and there were a ton of kung fu movies were coming over to the States, and they were a big deal, and so they wanted to capitalize on that. Marvel did, so that's why Shang-Chi came around initially, and I mean that fad ended eventually. And
yeah, just like any other trend, once it goes away, it's kind of hard to keep a character that was really born out of that. Another hurdle that I listed here was like culture shock. Now we both talked about how we weren't people who were really, really into kung fu movies. We knew about them. We watched a few of them. One thing I was thinking was like the United States as a country is pretty young. When you compare it to the history of China, that's been around for a society that's been around for thousands of years. And we obviously have two different cultures here, the United States culture and that of that's based on like the last 200, maybe 300 years of our society. And then the society of China that's been going on for so long. Did you find that a hurdle that you had to get past, or were you just like, okay, this was pretty easy. They did a good job explaining it and I was good to go?
Maybe a little bit at first, but I really liked that aspect to it because this seems authentic to me, even though I don't know a lot about Eastern mythology and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I thought it gave it a different flavor than what I'm kind of more used to with American comics, but I liked it.
Do you feel we got a good intro to who Shang-Chi is, through those first 3 issues, his history and the conflict that he's in?
Yeah, I think so. And there was really not many references to like his interactions with other like mainstream superheroes and stuff. They kind of kept it just to Shang-Chi's personal like story, which was cool.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I mean, I think after the first issue, like I said, it took me a couple times to read it to completely understand what was going on and who was who. But regardless, in those first 3 issues, I felt I got a good understanding of who Shang-Chi is and what exactly his history was. So I'll agree with you there for sure. What do you think of Sister Hammer?
Yeah, she's a good villain. It is something that seems a little tired, like the long lost sibling is actually the villain and all that stuff, but it still works pretty well. I guess it's better than, the former master turns out to be a villain and the student has to go defeat him. So, but yeah, as far as just the character herself, I thought she was a worthy adversary to Shang-Chi, and I didn't have any problems with her. I mean, they did a good job of giving her like motivation, so you can kind of see her point of view.
Yeah, I was just checking to see. Obviously, she's presented as somebody that Shang-Chi completely had no idea was still alive, so it was obvious that this was a vehicle to bring in a new character and a fresh face. And of course, there's a lot of history there that we didn't know about. And yes, her first appearance was indeed Shang-Chi #1.
So that's interesting. So she wasn't a previous character at all. There was no reference to his sister, I guess, in any other Shang-Chi iterations.
Yeah, I don't. As far as I know, they at least her first full appearance here, they got listed as Shang-Chi #1. So I'll tell you one of the things that I really liked. Shang-Chi does not like where he has come from. I'm not saying that he doesn't like China. What I'm saying is like he does not like the fact that he was born and brought up into this society of, what was it called? The 5 Weapons Society. I know for a fact one time he references it as a cult.
Yeah.
And you're almost like, well, I don't think you're too far off there, brother. It's kind of right. And at the beginning of this, the Five Weapons Society, I remember Sister Hammer comes in and says to, I can't remember if it's brother Staff or whoever was running the Five Weapons Society at that point. She says, you've done nothing but run this into the ground and created a drug ring. And now it's my time to take it over and take it to the glory that it's supposed to be in. But Shang-Chi's like, I don't want any of that. I don't want to be associated with any of it. And I think that's a really cool dynamic where he's trying to make a life for himself in San Francisco and just does not want anything to do with the Five Weapons Society at all.
Just keeps getting pulled back in.
That's right. Keeps, he can't escape. So I really did like that. And the other cool thing about this is zombies, buddy. I mean, I say zombies, but I mean, it's clearly, I guarantee you, if
zombie
I looked
vampires.
Yes, that's right. Zombie vampires.
Yeah, I was reminded whenever these zombie vampires showed up, going back, I don't know, maybe 20 years even or close to it, that buddy of mine that was into Hong Kong cinema, he was trying to sell me on this movie called Versus, which I believe is kind of a cult classic now. And he was telling me and my buddy about it and describing it, about how he almost made it sound like a Kung Fu Evil Dead movie.
Ooh.
And boy, I was excited about it. And
Nice.
eventually he brought it over for us to watch, and boy, we were just so disappointed.
Oh no.
And which, I mean, I guess it's got a following, so I guess it's probably a pretty good movie. I just didn't care for it, and neither did the buddy of mine that was with us. As he was describing the movie to us initially, he was talking about all these zombies, and then when we got to watching the movie, it was like, well, these zombies act more like vampires than zombies. So I guess that's part of the Chinese culture. I don't know, the way they present zombies are more like vampiric characters.
Well, I hopped onto the wiki, but I can just tell you that it was mentioned in a book between 1789 and 1798. That's how far, I guess, this reference goes back. It's definitely a part of their culture. I'm looking at just right here on the wiki. They got a picture. It says two people dressed up of Shang-Chi on Halloween in Osaka. So it's something that is probably like, I would assume, similar to zombies. Which, do you know much about zombies themselves? Like, I know like the first zombie movie, or one of the first, but John Romero, is it John? Not John
George Romero.
George Romero.
Yeah, I mean, he kind of created the flesh-eating zombie that we kind of think of today as zombies. But before that, there were like the voodoo type zombies, where people would be kind of controlled by others through like voodoo magic and stuff like that. But I'm not sure where the first, like, the term zombie originated or whatever. But yeah, the standard like flesh-eating zombies like we see on The Walking Dead and stuff like that, I think that's a much more modern version that I think that kind of started with Night of the Living Dead.
Okay.
Which was 68, I think.
Yeah, and this is definitely different. These are definitely different from that. They're not going after his flesh. They're trying to kill him. It was pretty neat to see those show up and just be like, oh, okay, we got some zombie-like creatures coming after him, and then seeing Shang-Chi get injured and kind of go through. It's almost like Turning, to be honest. Right. I mean, when you get bit by the modern zombie, you think of Turning, and that's kind of what he's doing here, except it's
like a virus slowly taking him over, sort of.
Yeah, and he's more susceptible to the will of Sister Hammer, which makes, and I think that ties together here in these next couple issues, but it makes it, obviously, she's the one that kind of, I guess, did the spell, reanimating these Shang-Chi, and then people get injured by these things or struck, or the virus gets over into them, she can control them as well. And that's what happens kind of like in that third issue, where he's kind of compelled to do what she's saying, and he doesn't. He resists well enough right now anyway, but that wound is not getting any better. So, but that's all I had on the first three issues. Anything that you wanted to bring up before we get to the fourth?
Just that we needed more Fin Fang Foom. He shows up in the first few pages in a flashback, and we just really get the guys jumping at him to take him into battle, and then that's all we get.
Yeah.
It's always cool to see Fin Fang Foom show up. So
that was where I was kind of like, oh, this Zhang Zhu, who's the guy that's, I assume, been the villain for Shang-Chi for quite a while. Obviously, there's been conflict. But yeah, to see him kind of fighting to try and protect China, I was like, oh, okay, so he's not exactly, a really, really bad guy. He's coming from a place where he's obviously tried to protect people in the past. What went wrong? That's kind of one of the interesting parts. Is like, why? why did he turn bad? But anyway, we kind of get I don't know about an explanation completely, but I mean, I'm sure if you go back into the Master of Kung Fu series, you can at least see some of the dirty deeds that he's done. All right, well, issue 4. Getting Liko to help out with the map that he found, Shang-Chi heads off seeking his uncle's Zhang Yi's tomb, bringing Brother Saber and Sister Dagger along. They find it, but a deadly guardian is there as well. Fighting it, Brother Saber and Sister Dagger tell Shang to head further into the tomb while they keep the Guardian at bay. Shang proceeds and finds his uncle's grave, finding Yi's spirit, and asks for guidance on what to do, how to treat his wounds, and also what to do to escape the Five Weapons Society, as he believes it to be a cult. Zhang Yi tells him a story from when the Five Weapons Society fought Baron Harkness in the Dread Dormammu. Some good callbacks right there. He also twists the story a little, saying that Zhang Zhu chose Zhang Yi to live and was about to sacrifice himself, but just before he could, Zhang Yi sent his spirit into his brother. I think the way that it was portrayed earlier was that Zhang Zhu killed his brother, but that's not the case according to Zhang Yi's spirit. Zhang Yi explains to Shang-Chi that he cannot run from his family, but must find balance or lose his way, like Zhang Zhu did after the battle with Baron Harkness. Back on the path to the tomb, the Guardian shows Brother Saber a vision that Shang will defeat Sister Hammer and then take over commander of the Five Weapons Society, and then the world. Shang returns and helps defeat the Guardian, but the revelation leaves Brother Saber concerned. Meanwhile, MI5 is preparing to confront Sister Hammer, even though Liko has tried to warn them not to. So that is issue 4. We definitely get the evolving story of Zhang Zhu and Zhang Yi as brothers, and if Zhang Zhu's path, what Zhang Zhu's path is on how he becomes, I guess, evil. And then we also have Zhang Yi making Shang realize he cannot run from his heritage and must learn to take control of it. So I think those are the most 2 important parts of that issue, just to kind of get us an idea of what Shang's father was like and what Shang has to do in order to try to end this threat of Sister Hammer.
A couple things. I liked the meeting with his uncle. It was kind of it had kind of an Obi-Wan Kenobi vibe.
Yeah, for sure.
Of him talking to the spirit of, his of a former important part of the family. I thought the Guardian of the Grave, I don't know if they ever give that thing a name, but that thing is gnarly.
Oh, it is, dude.
Got like a serpent's head with a lion's mane and ram's horns, and it's got 6 arms kind of protruding out of its neck like human arms. It's a really cool, weird design. I don't know if it's based on anything or if it's just something that the artist came up with, but very cool. And always enjoy seeing the mindless ones pop up in a Marvel comic. Which happens, it seems like every 20 years or so. I see them pop up in something.
The mindless ones, help me out here. Are those the Dormammu?
Those are like the acolytes of Dormammu there that are like fighting the...
I see them there. Yeah, with like the Cyclops red visor, like eyes almost, but they're not, obviously, the visor.
I think they probably show up more often than I think, but I know I remember them. The first time I remember seeing them was in an issue of Sleepwalker that was part of like a Darkhawk Sleepwalker crossover where a portal got opened to their dimension and they kind of poured through and they had to fight them off and stuff. I think they're probably more often showing up in Doctor Strange stories because I think Dormammu uses them a lot. Maybe they showed up in the Doctor Strange movie as like kind of like in the background. I have some kind of vague recollection of something like that, but
yeah, they definitely are pretty terrifying. For sure. Wow. Okay. All right. In London, Sister Hammer has unleashed the Shang-Chi on the city, and Liko and her soldiers are struggling to stop them. Shang-Chi and friends arrive to turn the tide. When Shang begins to look to confront Sister Hammer, his Shang-Chi wounds begin to take over, and he is losing control. Just then, Sister Hammer shows up to attack him, making him do her bidding. She orders him to destroy the others. Resisting, Shang-Chi discovers how Sister Hammer is creating the Shang-Chi by instilling in them all of the emotion she had as a child when her father banished her, which is, it's really neat how they use her trauma to kind of fuel these zombie-like creatures. That's a neat little trick. Taking the fight to an ethereal plane, which I just put that in there because they definitely weren't fighting. It was like they took it to the mindscape or something. But anyway, taking the fight to an ethereal plane, Shang is finally able to get Xiahua to see her father for what he is now versus what he was to her then. How he is twisted by fear and hate. Finally able to see this, Xiahua appears to release her hatred towards her father, overcoming the unavenged wrongdoing. I remember that being said. The unavenged wrongdoing that powers the zombies, and all of the Shang-Chi collapse. But then Sister Hammer focuses her rage towards Shang-Chi. When Liko shows up, she fires a headshot right for Xiahua, but Shang catches the bullet. Surprised and confused as to why Shang-Chi had saved her, Xiahua runs for a bridge and jumps into the river. Xiahua, Sister Hammer, hops into the river. She's gone. They don't know she's dead. She's obviously disappeared. So after this, Shang then takes control of the Five Weapons Society as Supreme Commander, bringing 4 of the 5 together. And in a ceremony, Shang extinguishes the flame of the torch passed down from his father Zhang Zu in order to light a new torch for a new era. However, in the epilogue, Zhang Zu's spirit tells Shang-Chi he is destined to become just like him. All right, man. So there we go. That is the 5th and final issue of Shang-Chi from the 2020 series. I guess let me first ask you, what do you think of our resolution for Sister Hammer?
I prefer that to her getting wasted as a villain.
Yeah. Okay.
I thought the coolest moment in the whole series actually is Shang-Chi catching that bullet.
Oh yeah.
With the 2 fingers. That was really cool. But yeah, I prefer her to not turn over a new leaf or whatever, or get killed at the last second. So they kind of do the comic book thing of keeping her open as a future threat and everything.
Clearly, she has love for her brother. She loves her brother. At least she did at one point. And now, obviously, she has been warped since childhood and feels that she belongs as the leader of this society. But she's definitely got an evil bent to her. Mm-hmm. She's definitely someone that isn't ruling with compassion. She's ruling out of fear and hatred. And
they give her enough humanity to make you think like Shang-Chi may still be able to reach her or whatever.
Yeah. And I know that I'm going through the 5th issue here. And I sum this up. So there is a lot that happens, specifically where Shang makes Xiahua, his sister, realize that, look, you have nothing to be afraid of. This guy should have no hold over you. He's dead and gone. And of course, that's enough for her to reconcile what happened. But boy, does that make her mad. And they really hint to like, oh, okay, well, she's coming around. She's obviously really sorry. And then she just straight up goes after Shang-Chi and tries to kill him. But, it's a good, I agree with you. It's a good resolution. The fact we leave her out there as a potential villain for the future, if she wanted to become one, or possibly an ally. You never know. Shang saved her life. I think that she's just got a lot of stuff to work through. A lot of stuff to work through. How about the premonition or the prophecy of Shang-Chi possibly becoming evil? What do you think of that? Does that feel, I almost want to say it feels too tropey. For me, it wasn't surprising. What about you?
I just saw this last page.
Oh, yeah?
The epilogue that I was talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think because there's a letters page before that.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm just now seeing that. That's cool.
Yeah, me.
It gives him something else to worry about, sort of.
Yeah. I give you the floor for anything left unsaid about these 5 issues. I know we rocketed through them, but it was a good read in my opinion. I had a good time. I have a way better understanding of who Shang-Chi is and where he's come from and what's in front of him right now. So that much I appreciate. As a casual fan of Marvel Comics, I knew who Shang-Chi was. Now I definitely can tell you if somebody comes up to me and goes, hey, what do you think? Which most likely will be my daughter. She'll be like, oh, that Shang-Chi movie looks cool. Well, let me tell you what I read. That's pretty much what I'll do. But if somebody ever came up to me and asked me about Shang-Chi, I feel like I'd have at least a little bit better ground to stand on than I did before. for.
Yeah, I mean, I liked it. I didn't love it, but I liked it. I think Shang-Chi is a really cool character, and I want to see him more often. So I'll probably check out the ongoing series he's got going now. I haven't yet, but I plan to, because I'd like to see him stay kind of prominent in the comic book world as well as the films, the MCU. And it's I think he's kind of been underused over the years. I think because Marvel doesn't know what to do with him, maybe because they think he's just not popular enough to sustain his own, book or whatever. But I like this enough to keep going and see where the writer Yang takes the character from here.
Okay. Well, what do you think about the movie, man? Are you excited about the movie?
Yeah, the movie is interesting. It's going to be an interesting, I guess, test for Marvel, because unless you consider Black Widow a failure because of the whole Disney Plus thing, I think that hurt its box office. It had a big drop off after its opening weekend and all that stuff. But I mean, I kind of attribute that to the fact that people can watch it at home, and
oh yeah,
I think that really ate into the box office numbers. But yeah, Shang-Chi is a character nobody in the general public really knows who he is or anything about him. There's no, Nick Fury is not apparently in this movie. None of the other characters are, or at least are not in the trailers. So it's really going to be kind of a test for the branding, I guess, of the MCU. I think it looks really cool. I think the trailers have been impressive. Seeing a Marvel movie that's also, a kung fu flick, that's really interesting to me. So I'm hopeful that it's going to take off.
Yeah, I don't want to be skeptical, because skeptical was me for Guardians of the Galaxy. And that turned out,
me too.
That smacked me in the face. It's like, holy crap, they could do something with a series of characters that no one has any idea about, and actually make a great movie. Now, the thing is that it felt like it belonged in the universe.
Yeah.
It felt like we were working. I mean, my goodness, if you look at Guardians of the Galaxy, I mean, you can't think of it being separate from Thanos, really in any way now, because there's so much history between Thanos and Gamora. So those characters were around the big threat. It definitely feels more apart from what we've got. Now, I'll tell you, I mean, if they wanted to make this movie something that I would be absolutely into 100%, I mean, you've got to pepper in some of the established characters.
Sure.
Or at least, make it feel like it belongs and not completely on its own. I'm hoping that's what I get. I want to see something that makes me go, okay, well, this belongs in here. There's a reason for this movie.
That was one of the things I kind of had an issue with Black Panther, which I liked. The movie was great. I liked it a lot.
Yeah.
But as I was watching it, it was just like, this is really just a Black Panther movie. The only other character that was really in it from the other MCU movies was Claw and the agent from Winter Soldier. I can't remember the character's name, but Martin Freeman's character.
Oh, okay.
So it was very insular, like it was just about Wakanda and just about the Black Panther, and it didn't have the feel of like the bigger universe of the MCU. Shang-Chi may be the same thing, because I don't know of any other characters that are supposed to be in it.
Yeah. Well, it's got its challenges. So I
mean, there's a small complaint. So
yeah, I mean, we can't. I've learned my lesson from criticizing something before it came out.
Sure.
That's the key. Is like, once it comes out, then I'll make my judgment then. So it'll be fun to see. I mean, I think this show is going up either the day of the release or maybe a few days before. But regardless, hopefully if this drops before, you now have a little bit better idea of who Shang-Chi is and what his history is like. So we appreciate you taking us along on the journey there in your ear holes or whatever. I think that will bring this episode of Source Material to a close. Chris Armstrong, I'm going to ask you, sir, to plug anything that you have going on right now. Did someone say plugs? This would be a good time to plug a sponsor for the W2M network, and that is Grammarly. For you, the listeners of Source Material, Grammarly is offering a free download of the Grammarly software. Grammarly's AI-powered products help people communicate more effectively. Grammarly helps you write mistake-free on Gmail, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and nearly anywhere else you write on the web. Grammarly corrects hundreds of grammar, punctuation, and spelling mistakes while also catching contextual errors, improving your vocabulary
vocabulary and suggesting style improvements. To download Grammarly today, go to getgrammarly.com/W2M Network. Again, that's getgrammarly.com/W2M Network to download Grammarly for free.
You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at BrodyMan34. That's pretty much it.
All right. Well, I know of a couple things you and I have been doing, and that is definitely the Unspoken Issues Comics podcast. Man, did we have a good time talking to Ron Friends. I mean,
that was awesome.
That all credit lies at Chris Armstrong's feet for that one. He's the guy that reached out to him and brought him on to the show. Folks, if you are a Marvel Comics fan, if you like the new universe, there's some stuff in that podcast for you. If you like Thunderstrike, trust me, check out that podcast where Chris and I have the opportunity to sit down and talk to Ron Friends about Thunderstrike. It was a lot of fun. This time when this releases, I believe we will have our Unspoken Issues of Rocko's Modern Life #7 and Duckman #5. It's a twofer, folks. Two wonderful podcasts for the price of one. Keep an eye out for our upcoming episode of Tripped Up Trivia that Alexis Hana and myself host. That will be, if you like to play trivia, you can hear us and usually about 4 other guests get on there and have a good time playing some trivia. We are expecting to be releasing a episode on toys in August, and then I think our good buddy Jason Teasley, he's going to be dropping an NFL trivia. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And Chris Armstrong participates or is planning on participating in the October one. At least I think so, unless things have changed. We got a horror-themed episode.
I'm down.
He is down. All right. Well, for Chris Armstrong, I'm Jesse Starcher. Thanks for joining us for Source Material. We will be talking to you soon. Have a good one. Bye-bye.